Hi everybody, I'm Sam, better known as Kill.the.Lights, and if you didn't know, I've been a little bit obsessed with Resident Evil. You know, you can see. Anyway, so in preparation for the new movie, I'm going to talk about all of the Resident Evil movies. No, not that one. Not that one either. No. We're going to talk about the CGI Resident Evil movies, beginning with Degeneration and ending with Infinite Darkness, which, yes, I know Infinite Darkness is a TV series, but I'm going to group it together because it's technically, like, the thing. We're including it, okay? I need Claire Redfield. So the way this is going to go is I'm going to talk about the movie's plot in general, and then give my final thoughts as to what is, the most important things to know about it, what it brings to the Resident Evil franchise, and I'm going to rank it. Now, the way that I rank movies and TV shows and pretty much anything, in my opinion, is, was it worth doing once? Okay. And then, was it worth doing again? So, essentially, for my favorite movies, I would say, yeah, it's worth rewatching back to back to back to back to back. If it's a movie that I absolutely hated, I'll say it wasn't even worth watching once. So, that's the way we're going to rate it. Now let's get going. We're going to start with Resident Evil Degeneration, which, for those of you that don't know, is the 2008 CGI movie that occurs just after Resident Evil 4. So it happens after Resident Evil 4, but before Resident Evil Revelations or Resident Evil 5. It's important because we get some stuff with Resident Evil 5, like, at the very end. And it's pretty much a Resident Evil 2 nostalgia trip, because our two returning characters is Allison Court's Claire Redfield and Paul Mercier's Leon S. Kennedy, which y'all know how I love Resident Evil 4 Leon, so that's half the reason I watched this movie. But Claire in this is badass and I love her. Believe it or not, I do actually have a script for once in my fucking life. I'm not just getting up here and ranting, because there's a lot that happens in this movie, and it's a lot. So the movie pretty much opens with an info dump talking about how Umbrella's been dissolved, bioterrorism around the world, etc. It's not really a big thing. Pretty much the only thing that's important to the overarching, like, Resident Evil is Umbrella was dissolved, TerraSave is protesting a certain senator, and Will Pharma, which absorbed a lot of, like, Umbrella's information. It's a whole thing. Then we get Allison Court's Claire Redfield at the airport with a young girl, Ronnie, and Ronnie's aunt. Now, the thing is, what I gotta mention here is that Ronnie and her aunt pretty much never appear again. There is a brief mention in one of the files in Resident Evil 6 to Ronnie, but her name is mistranslated, so effectively, you never hear about those two again. Not important. Shelve it. There's also a little bit more information dumped on us, a few characters introduced, such as a silver-haired scientist. I'm not kidding, that's how I have him written down in my notes. A senator, who is an absolute dick. A Curtis Miller, and some flight attendant. So, aboard one of the flights that's coming into the airport, there's an infected passenger that's trying to contact a man at the Will Pharma company. Will Pharma, being the pharmaceutical corporation here. The zombies quickly overrun the airport, but Claire, Ronnie, the flight attendant, and of course the senator managed to narrowly survive by locking themselves away in the VIP lounge. Great, right? I mean, you got the flight attendant who's scared, reasonably so. The little girl who's scared, of course. The senator who's like, well, the only reason you're even gonna get rescued is because of me, and I'm so important and egotistical, and we love that, don't we? And then we have Claire, who, as always, is just a badass. She's just out here like, no, I got, this is all under control, we're gonna be fine, nothing's wrong, just completely unshakable. Love that for her. So at this point, we're past the inciting incident. It is literally 15 minutes into the movie when Leon finally arrives on the scene. I'm not kidding. It takes Leon 15 minutes to even get into the movie, which is a choice. He, along with Angela and another, special rescue team member, they decide to launch a rescue mission, very small, just the three of them, to go and get the survivors of, Claire, Ronnie, the senator and the flight attendant. You know. So Leon gives them the zombie talk of like, oh, shoot him in the head, it's all gonna be fine. In the rescue, the spare guy dies. It's very emotional and shit. He's not there long enough for you to actually like him, and then it doesn't help with the fact that he's deliberately doing stupid things that Leon has told him don't do, and he's not nice to Leon. So, you know, if you like Leon, you're not gonna like this guy, and then he's gonna die, and you're gonna be like, this is fine. So, I mean, it's the moment. So, during this sequence, and honestly throughout this entire movie, Claire and Leon have some really cool narrative moments together, and for that, I'm not going to talk about that too much, just that it's really great for both of their character developments, and honestly, it's really nice to see. So, like, you should watch the movie. I'm gonna link a link down below to watch the movie, and you should watch the movie if you like Claire or Leon or both of them in whatever way, shape, or form. It's just pure bestie energy, and I love it. By the way, if you're looking at this wash of color across my face, I have a color shifting light over there that I don't want to bother getting up to turn off, so we're just going to deal with that. During this, we also learn that Angela, you know, the special rescue team member, is Curtis's sister. Now, I mentioned Curtis earlier. We'll get to it. Curtis is just kind of there for most of the movie, and then he's like a thing at the end. The best way I could describe it is Curtis is the tyrant in Resident Evil 1. Like, he's there, he's your final boss, but he's not the big bad. That makes sense? Anyway, so a ton of Will Pharma trucks arrive at the airport with pretty much every vaccine they have for the T-virus, because that's what they've been working on with the research data from Umbrella, is a T-virus vaccine, you know, like you need. And then we learn that the scientist, we finally get his name, it's Frederick Downing, and he arrives with them, and he's like, ah yes, we brought every single vaccine, we're good people, and if somebody says that they're a good person, you probably should be concerned. So essentially, at this point, the team splits up. You're really not going to see Claire and Leon together, so if that's what you're watching this for, just like in Infinite Darkness, Capcom says fuck you. So Leon teams up with Angela, and they go to Curtis's house, where it is completely on fire. He's their main suspect, and his house is on fire. He's presumed dead. Okay, so then we have Claire with scientist man Downing, and they're kind of flirtatious. It's a whole thing. And they go to Will Pharma to try to protect any development data of the T-virus vaccine, because all of the samples which were brought to the airport are conveniently destroyed. Look, nobody plays Resident Evil games for the plot. Except me. But that's me. Claire and Downing are at Will Pharma. He takes her up to the office and kind of shows her around, assuring her that their safety protocols are super, absolutely safe. Even if they're studying the T-virus, there's no way it's going to get out. We have security procedures in place. Everything's going to be fine. You can tell by my tone of voice and my absolute exaggeration there. It's not going to be fine, but you know. While they're there, Downing gets a very threatening phone call from the senator, who is just, he's speaking very honestly, particularly in regards to Claire. I hate this guy so much. Like, that's why I'm not even referring to him as his name. His name is Ron Davis in the movie. No, he's the senator, and that is the kindest term I will use for him. So after that, Claire's like, hey, what did he say to you? Like, you seem kind of freaked out. And Downing's like, oh no, it's fine. And Claire's like, he said something to you. What did he say? And then Downing lets it spill that Will Pharma was also working on the G virus, which had only ever affected one person. So how the fuck did they get that? Anyway, it's a regular nostalgia trip for Resident Evil 2 fans with the G virus, because that is the central virus to this. They do have the T virus at the beginning, but that's kind of over and done with very quickly. The G virus actually takes up the majority of the movie. I say the majority, and really, we got the beginning with the T virus and then the end with the G virus. The middle is just talking for a long fucking time. Anyway, so apparently, somehow, they're storing the G virus at Will Pharma, but yet nobody except the senator and Downing even know that it's there. So Claire, being the reasonable person that she is, says, I'm gonna call Leon. And she gets out her cell phone and she's dialing Leon, and Downing says, oh, there's a problem with the server. I need to go check something. And he leaves the room. So we have to switch gears here a little bit because this movie is a little bit all over the place. They're constantly switching between what's going on with Claire and what's going on with Leon. I'm trying to organize this as best I can without going back, forth, back, forth. So, we're going to switch gears. Claire is on the phone with Leon, and Downing has left his office, leaving her alone in his office. Now, back with Leon and Angela, we get a little backstory with Angela. When she was trying to save a drowning child, she acted impulsively, got her team injured, and then she was like super depressed about it because trying to save someone, she accidentally injured like 3 other people and almost died herself. And her brother cheered her up by saying, if you don't try to save one life, you'll never save any. And honestly, this statement is more important to Leon than Angela within the narrative. She never pops up again. So, like, Angela is she's just in this. We also hear a little bit about how Curtis was originally, like, this great guy, but he lost his family in the bombing of Raccoon City, and it kind of just wrecked his life. You know, grief's a bitch like that. So, Angela at this point swears to stop her brother, who she thinks is dead. I believe. I don't know. It's kind of fucking confusing where it's like, oh, we think he's dead in one scene, and then the next scene we're assuming he's alive. He is alive, so it doesn't really matter, but... At this point, Leon gets Claire's call. Leon is suspicious of Downing, but at the same time, Claire gets a call on Downing's office phone, and when she picks it up, it's Downing, and he's telling her, something's wrong, I went to a different place because I saw somebody go in there, and then their call gets cut off. Claire also sees Curtis in Will Pharma just before a massive explosion happens. Leon hears over the phone call, so Leon's panicking, and Claire has been in an explosion. She is seriously injured, and it pretty much gets sidelined as far as like action roles for the rest of the movie. It's also worth mentioning the way she gets injured is a piece of glass punctures her leg, which she pulls out. Do not pull objects out of puncture wounds. You're going to bleed out. That's a personal thing. It's a personal thing. So, having heard the explosion, Leon and Angela go to Will Pharma, and they decide to split up. But before they do, Leon assures Angela she's not alone, and Leon goes off on his own way, she goes on hers. On Leon's path, he finds Claire, who has limped down the hall because she's a bad bitch. And Claire, because she's awesome, Leon's like, oh, I have to get you out of here. She says, no, you need to go after Curtis. I saw him here, and I can handle myself. They wish each other well before they go on their own way, like, don't die, because otherwise I'm going to be super sad. It's nice. And then back with Angela, she finds her brother at Will Pharma right before he transforms. Because somehow he got his hands on G and injected himself. It's never really explained. He makes this massive speech about how he wanted to find out the truth of Raccoon City and was abandoned by some mysterious second party who he just refers to by the pronoun he. Like I said, there's some narrative issues here. It's fine. Security comes out to face Curtis, who has now transformed into a full Birkin 2.0. It's great. They open fire on him as Angela, who has suddenly been transported to being restrained by some security people, is screaming on the sidelines about how she doesn't want her brother to die. And, you know, we know how this goes. I mean, you have the guy that's infected with the G virus, and then you have these super intense security measures from Will Pharma. All of the security team members will die. But Angela is fine, aside from the trauma of seeing her brother kill a ton of people. It's fine. But honestly, the fight sequence, the initial fight sequence, is really, really cool. So that's something you gotta see. It's a little short, but it's so fucking cool. It does, however, lead you to believe that all of the members die in that first wave of attacks, but they don't. So anyway, Leon comes to save the day, but, you know, G-Virus. Curtis don't go down easy. So while him and Angela, Leon and Angela, are helping a short-lived survivor of the security team out of this, like, pool of water. I don't know why the water is there, but there's water there. I think it's because it's supposed to be like a garden center. Why is there a garden center in a pharmaceutical corporation? You know what? We're not questioning it. There needs to be a level of suspension of disbelief. As they're helping this survivor who's in this pool of water out of the pool of water, and some other survivors of the security team are making sure that Curtis is dead, these sprinklers come up. And the security team members are, like, coughing and stuff, like, what the fuck is this? And Leon's like, oh, this is accelerant. They're like, what? At which point, the security system, essentially, we're going to incinerate you. So Angela and Leon send the survivors up on the elevator that is in the center of this garden thing, just as Curtis rises from the rubble. Except they can't shoot, because otherwise they'll ignite that liquid accelerant. So they just have to watch as Curtis climbs up that elevator shaft, knocks it out of place, killing any remaining members of the security team that lands right in front of his sister. Splat! More trauma for Angela. Back to Claire, because Claire, the bad bitch energy here. On her way out, Claire decides, I'm going to make a little detour, and she goes to a different room, where there's all these computer screens. It's the security room, I think? I don't know. They don't actively tell you. I mean, they show you a shot of, like, the map, but it's a security room, okay? Where she gets to watch in horror as the things go down. But it's Claire Redfield, guys. It's Claire Redfield. So she gets to play a proper support role, trying to circumvent some of the security members to save or at least give Leon and Angela more time. And it works. It's really great. Because even though she's severely injured, she's still fighting and she's still finding a way to take an active role helping her buddy. So Leon and Angela barely make it out of the incineration via hopping into that pool of water, which somehow leads to a kiss scene for sharing air, apparently. I don't know. It's cringe, okay? It's cringe. However, Leon, because he's not very bright, uses a gun to pierce the container of water, and they start falling to their deaths, except Angela, brilliant Angela, manages to save Leon from falling to his death by grabbing onto a thing and him at the same time. So they're fine, okay? That's all pretty cool. Except Curtis follows. Now, like I said, I'm not going to go too in-depth with the action sequences because they're really well choreographed, and I think that you should see them for yourself because they're pretty cool. They're on these set of platforms, and each of the platform is getting submerged into that water. And oh gosh. So they're trying to move from one platform to the next before they fall. Classic video game sequence. It's great. However, Leon and Angela get separated. So Angela is literally backed into a corner by Curtis with nowhere to go. They're on the last platform. But she drops a picture of herself, Curtis, and his wife and child. And her her brother is still kind of in there because Curtis, even as a monster, picks up the picture and like shows it to the giant creepy eyeball on his shoulder and tries his hardest to prevent himself from hurting her. But Angela has resolved that she is going to die with her brother. Except for Leon. Leon jumps in at the last second, saving her, except, you know, they end up somehow dangling with Leon on this support beam, holding not just Angela, but Curtis, who has grabbed Angela. And Angela's like, you need to drop me because we're both going to die. Except Leon decides to cite Curtis. He says, if you don't try to save one person, you're never going to save any. I'm paraphrasing there. At which point he says, right, Curtis, and shoots the creepy eyeball on Curtis's shoulder, which makes Curtis fall. And then there's an explosion below them, but the door... Just watch it. It's kind of hard to explain. But at that point, they're still on some very rough piece of scaffolding, which means they both fall. Angela lands on Leon, but you know what? That's just more damage to Leon's spine at this point. He can take it, right? It's gonna be fine. They have a little bit of a moment, except it's interrupted by Leon's pager. I think it's a pager. It might be a cell phone, but I think it's a pager. It's 2008. They're allowed to have pagers, right? Meanwhile, Claire's actually doing the real work while he's having a moment with a girl. She's in that security room, right? And she notices that the entire fight was recorded. You know, a la Nemesis. To which literally she just says that, like, that was all recorded, and then they kind of move on to the next shot. I mean, I know that's a thing. You get into the scene late, get out early. But at this point, the army has rolled up with the senator, only for Claire to come out and verbally lay into this jerk. He insists on knowing nothing about it, but to be honest, it's just kind of funny because it's this egotistical man just getting verbally eviscerated by Claire Redfield. Beautiful work of art. However, at this point, Leon comes out only to say, no, I have the real answers. It can't be the senator. At which point, Claire has a flashback of, Downing is the real bad guy. Which nobody saw coming. So Downing gets arrested by Claire, Leon, and Angela. Once again, pretty funny sequence just because it's kind of nice to see them take him down, and he's kind of pathetic begging for his life. And Angela actually gets to make the main arrest, which is kind of cool. And then we kind of cut, again, to Angela and Leon saying goodbye. Claire's also there, but she really doesn't have many lines other than trying to comfort Angela about Curtis. But to be honest, it's worth mentioning that I didn't really recognize Angela the first time I watched it because she's in a completely different outfit and her hair is down and her hair looks much shorter when it was up. So it was kind of disorienting. As Claire and Leon decide to leave, Angela stops them and she organizes a little date with Leon. And we never see Angela again. But on their way to... I don't know where they're walking, but they are walking, Leon and Claire. And Claire's teasing him about getting asked out. Before they part ways, she goes with Ronnie and Ronnie's aunt, while Leon gets into a helicopter. And they promise to meet somewhere a little more normal next time, which I do think Infinite Darkness does make good on, I guess. Okay, so here's where Degeneration really makes an impact on Resident Evil as a whole. And that is literally in the last couple minutes. Our last shot is of the senator dead in his office with a newspaper over his head announcing Will Pharma has been bought by Tricell. And then we see some Tricell employees harvesting stuff, which is plot threads for Resident Evil 5. That's it. That's the entire impact of Degeneration upon the greater Resident Evil story. It's not much, but it's fun. And anyway, then we get the credits rolling with a pretty banging song because, you know, you guys, if you don't know, you should know by now. Resident Evil CGI movies have amazing credit songs. Watch them, please. Watch the movie. Watch the fucking movie. Watch the fucking movie. Grand scheme of things, let's be honest. this is not a perfect movie. In fact, it's far from it. It's cringy, it's campy, it's a blatant nostalgia trip that sags in the second act, which is the majority of the movie, let's be honest. The CGI is simultaneously hyper-realistic and completely unbelievable, which, let's face it, is just the age of the movie, if we're going to be honest. However, like I said, really important to the overarching plot of Resident Evil, it leads directly into Resident Evil 5, because if you play Resident Evil 5 without seeing this, you're going to have no idea what Tricell is. You're going to be like, what the fuck is happening? I know I certainly was. And to be fair, I'm not a big Resident Evil 5 fan anyway, so... But this did help patch up one of my main concerns with Resident Evil 5. Also, it's just really nice to see Claire and Leon teaming up again, and I know a lot of people were really upset at the end of Infinite Darkness because of how they handled Claire and Leon, but this one, it does it so well, and they end up in a good place. And once again, fight scenes are wonderfully choreographed. There's a real sense of horror and tension in every single scene. It's great. It's great. I will say, however, I don't particularly like how Angela and Claire fall to the wayside in favor of Leon, even though Leon literally comes on the scene last of those three. I am not kidding. He comes in at 15 minutes, right? Angela comes in before that, Claire comes in before that, even Curtis comes in before that. But yet Leon is the main character, and just from a plot perspective, that is not good writing. I mean, I guess you could say that they're subverting expectations, but they're really not, because they're giving up a female lead in exchange for a stereotypical male lead. And don't get me wrong, I love Leon. I just kind of love Claire more in this. And even Angela, I mean, Angela didn't get enough character development, if you ask me. Angela didn't get enough character development. She's kind of just there because she's Curtis's sister and as a half-hearted love interest for Leon, so that they don't have to pair Leon and Claire together, as if they have to have a romance subplot at all. You can tell how much that kiss scene bothered me. You can tell. But let's get to the final ranking, right? Was this movie worth watching? Absolutely 100%. I've rewatched it just to make this video. And to be honest, it was worth the rewatch too. It's not worth rewatching back to back to back, but I mean, once every few years I could see myself rewatching this just because it's a fun romp. This is a really good movie to watch if you're missing Resident Evil and you don't want to necessarily dive back into a Resident Evil game and you don't want to put that much effort into it. If you want to just watch a less than 2-hour movie where you get that vibe of the early Resident Evil games while not having to, solve a ton of puzzles and fight through zombies and get jump scared every 5 seconds, this is a great alternative. Like, watch the movie, you get a little bit of a nostalgia trip, you get Leon, you get Claire, you get the G virus, which is... And it's nice. It's nice. So, grand scheme of things, for Resident Evil movies, I'd probably rank this at about 3.5. It's decent, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good, it's fun. Now, let me tell you, I was originally going to just make this all one thing. I was just going to do all of the movies and Infinite Darkness in one video. I decided that is a bad idea. Not only because that would be really long for you guys to watch, but also because I don't think I would be cool editing that much. So, we're stopping here. I'll rewatch Degeneration, which is the next one up, and write a script for that, and we'll probably come out with that in a couple weeks. Hopefully. Don't hold me to that. So, of course, do all the things. If you have something to say, comment below. If you like the video, like it. If you want to subscribe and see me talk about Damnation, Vendetta, and Infinite Darkness too, subscribe and ring that bell. And if you want to see my other Resident Evil stuff, you can, of course, go to the archive stream playlist that's up in the cards, or you can go and just honestly browse my recent videos, because I've been doing so much with Resident Evil, because I'm a little obsessed. Just a little bit. At this point, I probably need to create an entirely separate playlist. You know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to create an entirely separate playlist for Resident Evil things, okay? So, you know, Resident Evil playlist up here, and then a recommended video here. Or, yeah, that's what we're going to do. Resident Evil playlist here, recommended video here, subscribe. Alright, hope you all have a wonderful day, and that's all for me. Bye-bye.